Do you know people who suddenly vanish from the career race? Maybe someone who turned down a promotion without giving any good reason. Maybe a friend who quit a dream job everyone would have killed for to do something smaller, earn less money, but somehow looks unsettlingly calm about it. Maybe someone in your family packed up and left a nice apartment in the city, moved somewhere smaller, somewhere slower. By normal logic, they are quitters. But the truth is, they look nothing like people who failed. They are not panicking. No regrets, no desperate need to convince the world they are fine. They just quietly walked away from a game most of us are still fighting to win. So what psychological process was actually happening inside them? Welcome back to Apex. Today we are going to break down the psychology of people who silently escape the rat race. And stay until the end because you will completely change the way you see success, ambition, and what winning actually means. Everyone is curious about people who dare to step off the career treadmill, but have you ever asked yourself, why do most of us keep running in the first place? Think back to the last time you got a raise, or when you crushed a tough KPI, got praised by your boss in front of the whole company, and finally bought that expensive thing you had been wanting for so long. That feeling was amazing. But be honest, how long did that satisfaction actually last? A few months, maybe just a few weeks before everything started feeling normal again, and you were already eyeing the next bigger goal. The grind for money and the constant hunger for more income and higher positions is not because we are greedy. It is actually a survival mechanism that has been hardwired into our brains for hundreds of thousands of years. The human brain has an ancient system called the mesolimbic reward circuit. For most of human history, social status was not about vanity. People who ranked higher in the tribe ate better, were better protected, and had a much higher chance of surviving. Being pushed out of the group could literally mean death. So the brain learned to treat status as a survival signal. The modern workplace understands this mechanism very well. Companies build systems that constantly stimulate your reward circuit, from quarterly performance reviews to employee of the month recognition to annual salary bumps. When you hit a goal, the brain immediately releases dopamine, a chemical that creates an intense rush of excitement. That short burst of happiness pushes you to earn more to upgrade your lifestyle. A better car, a bigger home. But the moment you get used to those new things, you need an even higher income just to maintain them. Your brain automatically treats any step backward as a survival threat, and so you just keep running on a loop with no finish line. On top of that, we are also stuck in a psychological phenomenon that Harvard professor Tal Ben-Shahar calls the arrival fallacy. Simply put, it is the deep belief that once you reach a certain milestone, once you get that manager title, once you buy that house, once you hit your first million in the bank, you will finally be able to rest. But the brutal reality is the moment you arrive, the finish line disappears, and suddenly you see another one even further away. An emptiness sets in, and it drives you to keep running to fill it. So the people grinding day and night are not weak or greedy. They are not brainwashed. They are simply doing exactly what their survival system tells them to do. But if this system is so powerful, what happened that made some people suddenly stop? Stepping out of the race is rarely an impulsive or spontaneous decision. The people who leave do not quit or change jobs just because of one bad day or one argument with their boss. They leave because that one bad day repeated itself so many times that it became their entire life. Their decision to stop is the result of a slow, silent draining of energy that built up over years. Psychology calls this burnout. But please do not misunderstand. Burnout is not just feeling physically tired. When you are just tired, all you need is one good night of sleep or a few days of vacation to recover. Professor Christina Maslach at the University of California, a leading expert on workplace burnout, explains it this way. True burnout is when your nervous system is placed on high alert continuously. When you work under intense pressure for a long period of time, the part of your brain that processes fear becomes overstimulated. At some point, it loses the ability to tell the difference between a real danger and ordinary work stress. You feel your heart racing, your hands sweating, your stomach tightening when you hear your boss text you at 9 p.m. at night, the exact same way your body responds to facing a wild animal. At that point, your nervous system starts treating work itself as a threat. You fall into a mode of working like a machine. You still show up, you still get things done, but emotionally, you are completely hollow inside. Think about that heavy, gloomy feeling that hits on Sunday afternoon. That is your body still sitting at home while your mind has already clocked back into the office, weighed down by anxiety about Monday morning. And it is in that state of exhaustion that a quiet moment appears and shifts their perspective forever. It does not have to be a dramatic event. Sometimes it is just an afternoon stuck in traffic on the way home, horns blaring all around, completely drained. And suddenly you ask yourself where exactly you are rushing to. You realize you cannot even remember the last time you had a truly relaxed evening. Or it is the moment you hold a health report in your hands at age 40 and the doctor warns you that your blood pressure is climbing from stress. In that instant, the dream salary and the impressive job title suddenly feel meaningless when your health is falling apart. A lot of people assume that people who leave the race are just people who do not care about money. That is completely wrong. It is not that they no longer need money, it is that they no longer believe more money always equals more freedom. A study from the London School of Economics scanned the brains of people who voluntarily left high-paying positions to take ordinary jobs. The results showed that the decision-making regions of their brains had changed. In most people, that region responds very strongly when they see money or opportunities for advancement. But in people who decided to walk away from the race, that response was significantly dimmed. Once money and titles no longer had full control over their decisions, these people began searching for the things they had lost along the way. To better understand the deeper motivation behind their decision to leave, let us look at a scientific framework called self-determination theory. This research identifies 3 core psychological needs that humans require in order to feel genuinely happy: autonomy, competence, and connection. Modern work and the corporate environment do not simply strip these 3 needs away from you. It is far more subtle than that. It gives you a controlled version of all 3. First, autonomy. You may earn good money, drive a nice car, eat at fine restaurants, but you do not own your own time. Your daily schedule is entirely dictated by your boss, your clients, your deadlines, and an endless stream of meetings. You trade your right to control your own life for financial stability. Second, competence. You feel more skilled, you take on harder challenges, you earn more recognition. But you are only being skilled by the standards and KP is the company sets. A lot of the time, you are using the sharpest parts of yourself to serve goals you no longer truly believe are your own. Third, connection. You may know hundreds of people, have thousands of contacts in your phone, go out for lunch and attend parties with colleagues every day. We have to be fair here. Not every workplace relationship is fake. There will be coworkers who genuinely care about you. But look at the truth honestly. A large number of those connections exist simply because you share the same system, the same role, the same work goals, and the same pressures. That bond usually comes with conditions. Some of the respect you receive comes from the position you hold, the competence you display, and the value you bring to the organization. Without realizing it, you depend on your job title to define how you show up in relationships. Only when you leave that system, when you take off the employee badge, do you truly find out which relationships will stay for the real you. When they recognize that this system is quietly eroding their most essential values, the people who decide to walk away begin to wake up. The decision to leave is actually an act of self-preservation. The key psychological ability that allows them to do it is what science calls temporal discounting flexibility. Most people are stuck asking short-term questions. How big is my bonus this month? Or, what do I get out of this project? But the people who leave ask themselves a much simpler and far more painful question. In 10 years, what will I have paid for this? And when they picture themselves at 50 or 60, maybe very wealthy, but carrying a body full of health problems, completely drained, with no truly deep relationships to speak of, that vision frightens them more than anything else. The fear of a future where they have lost themselves grows so large that it gives them the courage to say no to the temptations of advancement right now. But the story does not end there. Do not think that simply having the courage to hand in your resignation automatically delivers peace. Stepping out of the race is only the beginning. They are simply choosing to trade one familiar set of problems for a completely new set of problems. There are 4 quiet but heavy psychological challenges they have to walk through. Challenge 1, an identity crisis. The scary part is not having more time. It is not knowing who you are supposed to be with that time. For years, your job was the thing that defined you. When you meet someone new, the first question is always, what do you do? Your job title was like an ID card that gave you the confidence to exist. When you give that up, you suddenly face an enormous void. Some research on professional identity shows that when people lose a role they have held for many years, they can experience very real feelings of loss, as if an important part of who they used to be has just disappeared. Having to rebuild your own sense of worth from scratch, a worth not based on titles or bonuses, is a deeply painful process. Challenge 2. Social judgment. Someone who steps off the career track is sometimes judged not because they failed, but because they make others question the race they are still trying to win. Society has a default script. Work hard to get promoted, buy a house, buy a car. When you choose to slow down, do less, live calmly on a smaller income, you unintentionally make the people around you uncomfortable. They do not hate you, but your existence forces them to confront the exhaustion they have been suppressing every single day. To reassure themselves that they are still on the right path, they will tend to judge you or constantly push you to come back to the old way because it makes them feel better about their own choices. Challenge 3. Financial anxiety. Freedom sounds beautiful until the bank account stops growing every month. Even if you saved up a significant amount before stepping back, the human brain is still wired to sound alarms when resources start to decrease. What is interesting is that research by Daniel Kahneman showed once basic needs are met, more money does not necessarily boost daily emotional well-being as much as we expect. So why are we still so afraid of losing money? Because money does not just represent comfort, it also represents safety, social status, and a sense of control in a highly competitive world. Challenge 4. Losing the scoreboard. When you were still in the race, as exhausted as it was, you at least knew where you stood. You had a clear scoring system. KPIs, year-end reviews, bonus amounts. It had a built-in definition of what winning looked like. Once you leave, there is no scoreboard telling you that today you lived right. No more high-stakes targets to fuel your adrenaline. Having to define a successful day using quiet, internal values, being your own referee in your own life, can very easily leave you feeling unstable and lost. If you or someone you know has just stepped off the treadmill and is feeling restless, guilty, or empty, know that you are completely normal. Peace never shows up the moment you walk away. What always shows up first is the void. Stanford University conducted a long-term study and found that in the first few months, without the busyness of work to serve as a distraction, people were forced to confront their deepest thoughts. They realized that all that busyness before was actually just a mask, a way of avoiding the question of what they truly wanted from this life. In those early months, suddenly leaving work on time, having time to take a walk without urgent messages buzzing in, will feel profoundly empty. Your brain will keep demanding to be busy, demanding its familiar pressures. But neuroscience brings some good news. The human brain has what is called neuroplasticity. Think of it simply this way. If your brain can get used to stress, it can also relearn how to feel peace. If you consistently maintain a new pace of life, the regions of the brain that once responded intensely to high-intensity stimulation like money and status will gradually quiet down. In their place, the brain becomes more sensitive in a different way. You start discovering intense joy in things that once seemed too ordinary to notice. A morning when you wake up and your body does not hurt, a conversation with no hidden agenda, or the ability to sit down with a cup of coffee and actually taste it. Time is no longer an enemy you have to outrun. Time becomes a space where you can truly be present. At the end of all this, we need a fair perspective. The career race is not something evil. People who continue pushing forward, working long hours, taking on big projects are not doing anything wrong. They are doing a tremendous job of securing their financial safety, developing their abilities, and keeping society running. That is a choice that demands real strength, and the rewards they earn are completely deserved. Whether you choose to stay in the race or walk away is not a measuring stick for who is smarter or who falls short. But the people who quietly step out, they are not lazy. They have not given up. They carry a quietly remarkable psychological strength. They are willing to face judgment and face uncertainty to protect their right to live on their own terms. They simply realized they were winning a game whose prize at the finish line was no longer worth the cost they were paying to get there. If right now you are feeling suffocated by the pressure of work, standing at a crossroads full of anxiety, remember this. Your hesitation is the sign of a brain that is craving to live authentically. You are choosing to enter a much harder game, the game of defining happiness for yourself. Maybe the deepest question you need to ask yourself right now is not, are you winning? It is this.